It's been a roller coaster week for Zia Yusuf. It really has. So this all started, this saga, on Wednesday when, at Prime Minister's Questions, the freshly minted Reform MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pochin, asked Keir Starmer in Prime Minister's Questions if he was going to ban the burqa. Now, of course, apparently, Reform UK only really care about the real issues that matter to this country, of the circumstances of the poorest, and are not necessarily a entirely cultural-brained meme party. But of course, she did ask this, and very silly question to ask, because we believe in personal freedom in this country. And what this was is essentially her trying to pander to the base, because there's a lot of cultural brain people in the Reform UK base. A lot of people don't like Muslims in Reform UK. Surprise, surprise, surprise. And Zia Yusuf didn't think about this when he became the chairman of the party. Chairman of the party because he met Nigel Farage at a millionaire's cocktail party and thought, this is a party that wants to cut tax. This is a party that wants to reduce public spending. This is a country that wants me to be able to get fabulously wealthy at the expense of everybody else and not have a social contract or anything like that. This is a great way for me to enlarge my fortune through lower taxation and more austerity. He didn't realise at the time that it was actually just a cultural party against Muslims. It's basically it. The patriotic Muslim himself, right, who only just realised at the time when Sarah Pochin asked about banning the burqa in Parliament that maybe there's a lot of Islamophobia in Reform UK specifically, right? You can't just do slash and burn austerity on its own. That has to come as a package deal with virulent and endemic Islamophobia in the party. And so he quit on Thursday, I believe this was? Yeah, it was on Thursday. The original statement that he gave was that working to get the party elected was no longer a good use of his time. Presumably because he only just found out that there's a fight for Islamophobia, that just like 90% of the party's policy platform is just not liking Muslims, which he is one, and then getting surprised that Sarah Pochin said she'd ban the burqa in Parliament. Just very, very strange to me, very, very strange to me. Now, what Aaron said in Novara's show about this was that there is at least somewhat of a case that Zia Yusuf would also have left, partially because of Islamophobia, but also partially because all of this shows that the Reform Party is totally disorganised, right? He was there, brought in by Farage specifically, as a rich man, as he is, to help professionalise the party, get a party structure. They changed the party structure so that members had voting rights once he came chairman, trying to have the kind of ground campaign that you'd expect from the more mainstream parties, which we saw at the Hamilton by-election, allowed Labour to win in low turnout elections. Having a campaign group on the ground, speaking to people and have that established base is really important for winning elections when margins are small. That's how Labour managed to win, right? Now, Farage knows this, Yusuf knows this, and that's why he joined. And so, of course, seeing new members of Parliament make up policy on the fly at PMQs, seeing the absolute shit show there has been Reform UK councillors getting elected and multiples of them just leaving because they didn't realise they couldn't stand or that they didn't want to stand and were only going to defect once they became a Reform UK councillor. 2 more councillors have defected to the Tories yesterday. So he's clearly seen the party as being an absolute mess. But I genuinely think, personally, that's secondary to the fact that I don't think he realised just how Islamophobic the party really is. Because they really are very Islamophobic, right? Whilst I don't think necessarily that some of the members of Parliament are, although I certainly believe that Sarah Pochin is, the membership absolutely is so. You'd have seen the reaction. The reaction from when Zia Yusuf left was so many people in the replies cheering on the fact that they could now vote for reform again because there wasn't a Muslim up the top. That should show Zia Yusuf exactly why he was correct to leave and why it is so silly that today he is U-turned and has returned to Reform UK. After 2 days, right? Shows you that these really are the adults in the room. All of the farcical nature of how they've governed themselves just recently, added on top of the fact that this guy doing a David Littleproud and breaking the coalition only to rejoin it a couple of days later. Just honestly, really is funny to me. But I think that this all compounding and it will not help reform broadly to the kind of politically engaged people who want to have a party that is seen to be respectable, that is seen to have a sensible way of comporting itself. They are looking for the adults in the room, basically. But I think that there is an overhyping of the level to which this could damage Reform UK. For people who pay attention to politics, people who are obsessed with what goes on in Whitehall, people who are really concerned with the day-to-day machinations of internal party politics, right? They will all look at this and go, no, can't vote Reform, these people are a joke, these people are a shit show, and a clown show, which is true, right? They are a clown show and they are a shit show. The problem, of course, is that Reform UK's base is people who don't vote. Reform UK's base is mostly drawn from people who didn't vote in the last election, the politically disenfranchised. Do you think these people watch Question Time? Do you think these people are out there watching Newsnight? Do you think these people care about internally what's going on inside Reform UK's politics? Lots of the people who vote for Reform UK don't even know who Rupert Lowe was. They certainly know who Zia Yusuf is. He's not even an elected member, right? If they didn't know who Rupert Lowe was, they're not going to know who Zia Yusuf is. They don't care. They're not paying attention. They want an alternative to the mainstream politics. So I think there's a lot of overhyping from other people's commentary on this. The level to which Zia Yusuf's debacle, in terms of his in-out shaker all-about approach to being the party chairman, is going to damage them long-term, because it's not what their voter base really cares about. It's Nigel Farage keeping control that's important. It's because he is the personality, the cult of personality, that keeps these people on side. He's the iconoclast that opposes Westminster, that opposes the establishment elite politicians, and he is the main focal point that allows reform to be popular. It is not their perceived level of being sensible that makes people want to vote for them, especially when they have had such a good election result the last locals, which means that they're not a wasted vote to keeping Labour in power. Like, most people only stop voting reform for UK. Most people only stop from voting for reform because they are perceived to split the vote, and now they are beating the Tories. That's no longer a concern, and it's just retired people who want to vote for the Tories now. But it's interesting that he's not being the chairman anymore. He's going to be in a new role, basically part of their Elon Musk brigade, right? What's that? Super rich man who likes tax cuts for rich people by slashing government spending with slash and burn austerity wants to lead their particular team that they've got for slashing and burning with austerity and cutting taxes for the wealthy people. Like, it's almost like it's entirely being done to feather his own nest, and rather than the fact that it's good for the country. When, of course, most people who vote reform think that public spending is a good thing. What's quite interesting as well is that Farage wants him to appear in the media more often. Now, I think that Zia Yusuf's media performances have been fucking abysmal. Really, really bad. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He makes up numbers on the fly. I don't think he's a good media performer. I think Farage is a much better media performer, and to a lesser extent Richard Tice, right? So I don't know why they're keeping him as the face of the party, especially when the more he gets known by the electorate, the more he is the face of the party, the more the racists that want to vote for reform will not vote for them. The same way they're not voting for Kemi Badenoch, you know? I guess that's Farage's long-term goal. Actually, you don't want the headbangers on side. You don't want the headbangers on side. You want the headbangers to think that you're too centrist for them, whilst having, pretty radical policy in terms of migration, in terms of social policy, in terms of economic policy and austerity and geopolitical positioning, right? Like, if you want to be able to win a majority in a first-past-the-post election, which they now support, they no longer support proportional representation because, of course, they're very opportunist and they realize, we can win a first-past-the-post election now, let's support it anyway. Really, really opportunistic, zero principles, right? They don't want to appeal to the headbangers, and so by having Yusuf front and centre, he makes it sound like the racists aren't welcome, right? So we'll see whether that's worked, whether that's a good plan. But I just think Zia Yusuf fucking sucks. I think he's really bad at communicating ideas. He's not that charismatic. He's just a rich guy who wants tax cuts. It's literally it. It doesn't matter about the social consequences of the slash and burn austerity, as long as he gets an extra £1 million in his bank account at the end of every financial year. Also very funny to me that Farage is trying to make people not think that Reform UK is a party for racists by lying, essentially, by implying that all the people being racist to Zia Yusuf aren't Reform members and are just bots. It's so obvious that these people are just Elon Musk coded, right? Everyone who disagrees with me is a bot. We need to get rid of the bots. Everything that is happening that I don't agree with is fake news, essentially, rather than the fact that there are just a lot of people who want to vote for reform because they want to get the Muslims out. Liberal Democrats called it a game of musical chairman. Don't make me laugh at you, Lib Dems. And laugh in a good way, not a bad way. I like laughing at the Lib Dems when they do badly, but that's a good line. You're not supposed to be funny. You're supposed to be bad. You're supposed to be out of touch. Stop it. See? And like, people are trying to be convinced that somehow Reform UK is a party for the people. Literally a banker. Farage, commodities broker. Richard Tice, property magnate. James McMurdoch, also a banker, right? Literally, it's all they want is tax cuts. It's all they care about. Anyway, pretty humiliating for the party, really, but I don't think it's going to necessarily move the dial on whether they're going to be successful politically or not. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for memberships. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.